Hey guys, I'm Rachel Castile and welcome to Typology Corner. Today I'm going to continue the OPS basic series and talk about the animals. The animals are like actions that we take that is a combination of an observer function and a decider working together for us to accomplish a task. So there are four different animal actions that come from the different functions being combined. And we all do them in different orders. And this becomes something else that colors our personality. Within our given type, when you put these animal orders, these actions in a different like order of operation or preference, you get different colors of that same type. So it's broken down into two categories. Two of the four animals are considered information animals, and the other two are considered energy animals. They have to do with preserving energy and expending energy. And then the information ones are about taking in information for the self or taking known information and teaching somebody with that. So within objective personality, they've got specific names for these, and I'm going to move over to a slide and kind of show you more about it. So again, the animals is one observer and one decider working together to accomplish a task, to do an action. So our four actions is consume, blast, sleep, and play. And consume and blast both are information related. Consume is taking in information from the outside, so it's using the extroverted observer function combined with the introverted decider process to take in information for the identity, for the self, to make sense of it for their own consumption. This is not something that requires communicating with other people to do this process. It's just taking in information for the self. And yeah, it is called consume. Something else I could say about it, it is a function that is about taking in something that's not known. A high consumer wants to learn. They prioritize learning and learning more and learning more and learning more. And you'll see it works on a coin. You can think of consume being like the opposite of blast, and you'll see how this functions. So, in contrast, blasters or people who use blasts, they are taking known information from OI, the introverted observer, that filing cabinet of information that they've already retained, organized, made sense of, and then they are going to the tribe, to the collective, the extroverted deciding process to engage with the tribe. And they are taking known information and then teaching. It's like a monologue of teaching and sharing known information with people. So it is completely the opposite of consume. Consume is something I don't know being consumed for the self, just to kind of upgrade your knowledge, to bring in something that you don't already have, just to kind of like reading a book. I'm reading a book for me. It doesn't require anybody else. I'm not sharing this with anybody. I'm not ready to actually bring somebody in on what I'm consuming. And blast is the complete opposite. It's something that you already have. You can't blast something you don't know. So it can't be related to the extroverted observer process. So it's taking something that's already in your filing cabinet, going to the tribe and being like, guys, I got to share this with you. I want to blast this information. I want to teach it. It's a process that I guess people who have it high up, they are more prone to get started with something quicker, to jump out and do something with the information that they already have. They are go-getters in that sense of they will jump out without needing a lot of information, versus a high consume type will have the feeling that like I don't know enough to get started. I don't know enough to get started. A high consumer is aware of what they still don't know, so they go back out to get something that they don't already have and to take in more information. High consumers who don't have blast high up will just kind of bathe in information overload and still go out and get more information and have a tendency to not share what they know, but just go and I guess in knowing what they still don't know, just go find more stuff on the topics that they have, that they're interested in. Consume has a lot to do with that DI process. So it's a particular identity process. So it's like, it's the things that you want to consume. Consume is particular in that way. Excuse me. Consume, yeah, it has that pickiness about it. It is what that DI process wants to consume. So, depending on what the functions are, different types like consuming different types of content or information based on what the functions actually are for them. Yeah. What else can I say about Blast? So yeah, Blast has to do with the tribe. It is going out, it is teaching, it is kind of telling other people what to do. It can be considered controlling in a sense. And I can go and blast to people how they should live their life, what they should do with their life, the right thing that they need to do. It's the conclusions I've come to, and I'm going out and in a monologue. It's not a dialogue. I am telling the tribe what to do. It can be graceful, it can be blunt in different people, but blasting is taking something from the inside and putting it out there. So, but as you can tell, both of these are information related. It is getting new information and sharing information. So yeah. Moving on to the energy coin, we've got sleep and play. These have everything to do with preserving energy and expending energy and the balance between the two, having a tendency to be a high preserver of your energy or a high expending energy on people and stuff like that. So that's what the energy coin is about here. So just to elaborate more on sleep, sleep is the internal part of us. Sleep is our introverted decider with our introverted observer in a bit of an internal loop of processing information, being introspective. Looking inside and making sense of experiences, reflecting, gaining energy again, unplugging from the world around you. It's a sleep state. It's internal processing is probably the best way to describe that. It is fully for the self. Sleep processing has nothing to do with the outside world. People who are high sleep processors, who have this particular animal high in their animal order stack. I guess just to clarify, everyone has all of these animals and they're put in a certain order. So, or you consume, blast, sleep, then play. You can mix these up in every possible combination to get the order in which you have a preference for doing things. Are you blasting often, consuming almost not that much? Is that kind of the blind spot? You don't do that much. Are you high sleep? Are you high play? You can put it in any order and you get varieties that come from this, that color your personality type. In addition to your type, whether you're a jumper or standard type. I'm going to get into sexual modalities in my next video, which has to do with the masculine or femininity of a function as well. That is also things that color the functions that we all have. So that's how the animals are working. But yeah, back on sleep, it is that internal world. Some people have this as their first animal. So ahead of anything else, they are watching their energy levels. They are going inside and making sense of things very often. That they are highly processing and are in touch with themselves in that way. They know where they stand on something. They know They make time to navigate that, to introspect. So that is definitely a self-related energy coin. Last, we've got play. Play is a tribe related thing because both of the functions being used are both extroverted functions. Again, every type has two extroverted functions and two introverted functions. So the play coin or the play animal is using the extroverted decider and the extroverted observer to be out with the tribe, expending energy, doing something with people, interaction. It's like that pinging back and forth between you and your environment. Yeah, it can be like doing work and doing tasks and being out there, being busy, but it can also be just like pinging with people and conversation and just liking the back and forth. It's sharing energy with people. So you can think of it as expending energy on the tribe, expending. It's like putting something out there, receiving what's back, and like it's that interaction. I think the best way to put it, it's like it's interaction with the outside world. Um, not not like blast. Blast is going to the outside world and giving a product to the outside world that's very specific from the inside of you, teaching, controlling, marshaling in a sense, or yeah, just sharing information. um if someone's in the middle of blast, being interrupted is probably not good for a high blaster because they're like, I'm in the middle of giving you something very specific and you're interrupting it. That can be a high blaster can feel that way because it was like I was telling you something that I wasn't done telling you. If you're with a person who's high play, they're actually kind of processing more, so they're like verbally processing with you. Just they are consuming and wanting you to give feedback in the middle of it, and they're just kind of processing something out with the tribe. So you can, again, that comes back to interaction. So think of play as interacting with the outside world, when blast has that strong element of an internal organized thought process being then taken and given to the outside world. It is that I think of a monologue, and play is more dialogue sort of idea. So it's expending energy, it's being interactive with the world around you. High play people have a tendency to go and expend their energy, versus a high sleep person is preserving their energy, watching their energy levels, going back in and processing what's going on in their life, or just whatever they, they're navigating the self much more. A high play person will be out with the people. Even if they're an introvert, if they have high play, they'll be a much more extroverted introvert than someone of their same type who's more high sleep or low play, missing play in their personality. A low play person might not like really being out in the grocery store and just like being all the time, like around people. That could be draining to them, to be just always out there pinging with the tribe. They may do it here and there in their own ways, but yeah, and the opposite is true. Someone who is like super low on sleep processing, they are just burning their energy out and don't even notice it, and then they just kind of crash later because they're not focused on the preservation of their energy, so they're not even noticing that they're using it, burning it all day, jumping right out there and loving the using of their energy, and the interaction is kind of building them up in a bit. Yeah. So just to get a good picture, you can tell that play and sleep are energy related things. So they're called an energy coin. They're opposites in a sense. So they work on a coin. And then back on the information ones, you've got consume and blast. Consume, taking in information for the self. Consume could be, I'm watching a movie. I don't want to say anything about this movie. I'm not wanting to turn and tell somebody else, hey, this movie's so good. Somebody who's high blast might do that, see a piece of the movie and go blast it already. Something else to elaborate on blast. It's kind of stereotypical that a blaster will teach on something they don't know that much about because they're that inclined to share the information that they're ready to jump out on almost knowing nothing, but they just want to get moving. They want to get moving on it, get started on something. And a high consumer is the opposite. They'll know so much about something and continue learning, and never share it with anybody. Somebody who's very low in blast, it can be difficult. Like, you can think of blasting as communicating, really. And a high consumer isn't communicating, they're just taking in stuff. A high consumer can look more introverted because of the lack of the tendency to communicate the consumptions. So there are actual extroverted types who could be high in consume and low in blast, and they can look introverted because they don't have that guttural tendency to go and blast and share with the tribe. So yeah, you can look within any given type. There's a spectrum of introversion and extroversion within every personality type based on what is their animal stack order. Yeah. So from there, I will show you another thing to think about. So it's just expanding more on info and energy. So another like concept that really is a good way to categorize people is info dominant and energy dominant. So a way to process this is what this would look like. If say you just have an INFJ, I use two that are going to be the same type, but just only changing the animal order. So just to break down how it's written, the term saviors and demons also applies to the animal stacks as well. So before this line are the two saviors. These both come naturally to this type. And then over here, we're getting into the demon animals to this particular example person here. There's how we've talked about like that blind spot process that's like the most weakest in a sense when we're talking about the functions. We still have the same idea. Over here in the quotations is basically the animal that is missing in them. Like they are not paying attention to it. So you've got two saviors, and then this one is somewhat of a demon, but it's there, they can do it. And then the one they're just like neglecting, I think is the best way to talk about that. So this example, you've got a person who is blasting. They're instantly taking their known information and teaching it. They're out there pinging and playing with the tribe. And then consume is a bit lower for them, but they have a higher inclination to teach than to take in new information, but it's still there, still here in the beginning. And then lastly, they're not really in their internal processing much in comparison to everything else. They wind up expending their energy and then kind of crashing because they're not taking time to preserve their energy. This is an example of an INFJ who is more extroverted because these two animals up here are much more related to interacting with the tribe, talking to the tribe, being with the tribe, very much so, than, consume, and then total internal processing is very low. So this particular INFJ, based on how they spend their time, I think the animals could be defined that way. Where do you put your time? In what order do you, if someone was to zoom out and watch you, like, how do you spend your time throughout the day? That's kind of what the animals is. This will be a much more extroverted by action INFJ. Okay, so these colors and the breakdown of the functions, I just want to articulate a bit more what this looks like, of what blast looks like. So I've put a letter to notate these different animals just to show what functions very practically make up these animal processes. So we can just take blast right here. I've got the B. We've got the introverted observer, known information being communicated to the tribe through the extroverted decider here, extroverted feeling. So that's just the rule of what makes up blast. If we go back to this, blast is the extroverted decider and the introverted observer. So we just simply look on this particular type, and for their functions, that is that, them being INFJ tells the order in which these come in, but the animals are unrelated to the function order. Someone can be like high, say consume, but their consume functions are at the bottom. That means they're accessing their demon functions regularly to do a process that is higher up for them. That's that's an example. I didn't write this particular one to be that way, but this animal stack could be totally different. I could write out various combinations of this, and you'd have all those different types of INFJs. But in this particular example, first thing, blast fits them pretty well. They don't have to access their daemon functions to do this process because their first two functions is the two functions that are used when blasting. So an INFJ being high in blast comes kind of naturally. Or it might be common, I guess, is a way to say it. There are ones who totally could be low blast and almost never blast, have blast like last. It's more rare, but that means they will be using their bottom functions that are demons more often just by the way they live their life, the actions that they take, But in this example, so that's what blast looks like. And then play is your two extroverted functions working together. So this would be their second thing that they're using often. So they're using this extroverted feeling doubly so because they use it when blasting and they use it when doing play. And then consume is gathering in new information for the self, for the identity. Down here, this is consume. Consume is using their two bottom functions. And I'll just use this example as though this is a standard type so that they're not a jumper. So you would consider these two demons and these two saviors for them. So in this hypothetical example, they're doing consume down here out of their two demon functions. And the type of consume they have has to do with extroverted sensing stuff, new facts, to understand it for the self. That would be their consume. And then sleep processing for them is their last animal, which is the internal world, going over the patterns and making sense of the logic for the self. In here, making sense of things. That's what their inner world is like for the INFJ. And in this example, they're doing that rarely. They go and expend all their energy out here, kind of crash and realize, I haven't really processed everything I experienced, everything I went and did all my day. I need to go inside and process all of this. So they wind up being a person who processes at the end of it all, or it's kind of missing. They don't get around to doing it much. They're back off, jumping back out in the extroverted world, doing this stuff, sometimes consuming and watching a movie or something, right? Reading a book. But they're using all their energy to blast and to play. Then they're consuming and then I'm just not really slowing down and processing. So that was a lot of explaining. I did do this chart because I want to get into the info and the energy comparison. So defining what info dominant means, that means that they have the two information coins or two information animals in their first three. That would make them an info dominant person. And yes, this example, they got the blast and the consume in the first three. So this is a more information related person. And another way to see that is the energy one is the one that's missing. Therefore, both of the info ones are up here. So this is a info dominant kind of person. So they're going to be more accurate on the information. They are going to be getting in new information for the self and teaching. So they'll be not just teaching out of not much information. They'll still be getting around to making their information more accurate, bringing in more, consuming more information, and teaching. So they wind up being balanced in a sense of being focused on giving thorough information, that they're not just teaching from not much information. This will be a person who's less focused on an energy-based life, but more an information-based life. And you'll see that in just the type of person that they are. The type of conversation they wind up having is like informing people of stuff. Getting new information and teaching that information becomes somewhat of a lifestyle, what they're seeking out. And you'll see an energy example person is very different from this. Energy people, this example, we've got a sleep first, we've got a blaster, and then a play person, and they're not consuming much new information. So the thing is, whenever you get sleep and blast in the first two together, both of the energy animals, You wind up having a person who kind of has a tendency towards being goofy, playing with people, and then preserving their energy, and they're more focused on just having a good time or their experience, and kind of that balance between the two. And they're not so focused on having super thorough information in their life. They're going to blast and share stuff a lot here, this particular example, but they're not going back to like super check in on the information, get it more thorough. They're kind of not doing that. They just kind of like having fun. Your energy people aren't super focused on the information in of itself. They're noticing that balance between sleep, processing, and play, and being out there doing stuff with the tribe, and then, oh, I need a break, and then back off with the people out doing stuff, and then I need a break. And they're somewhat balanced in their energy, or they have a focus on energy. They can love having spikes of energy because they want to expend it. The play makes them want to be that way. And then the, okay, rest, and then back off. So it's more of an energy-based life, versus a person who's high on both of the information coins. They're going to be a life more around the information, more around really getting all the details, more being thorough in their understanding, and kind of have just a different way of living, I guess, is a way to say this. This is all within an INFJ example. But this applies to so many different types. You can look in extroverts, all kinds of different animal order stacks. But overall, I just want to get a good intro so you can see these pieces working together. And this can be expanded upon so much more. But let's see, just for a little bit of a breakdown of this. So this is a person who's much more introverted than this INFJ. They're both INFJs, but sleep processing as their highest priority. They're going to be internal a lot more, making sense of their own inner world, processing about their life, about themselves. They're going to be much more in touch with this part of themselves. So in general, by how they spend their time, they're more introverted. And let's see. And then from there, from that high level of inner knowing, they then will come out and then do blasting from this known information, and they have a tendency to teach a lot as their main way of interacting with the people around them. And then from there, now they've got play. So then, yeah, they'll enjoy that extroverted world, but it's much lower. This is a more from their inner world, not projecting, but teaching from that inner world. And then out there playing with the tribe, kind of processing with people, talking with people, starting a project, doing something with this information, their inner world and stuff. And there'd be much more learning from their own life instead of taking in new information and consuming someone else's stuff. They're not really taking in new information often. They are just processing their own ways, living from there, teaching it to other people, playing with people, and just enjoying the extroversion of being out there with people. And then don't get around to taking in new information from somebody else. Consume is like listening. I guess a good way to say it. I'm listening to you. You tell me something, I'm going to consume it. I'm just purely consuming the information. I personally, my first animal is consume. So I'm highly inclined to just absorb, learn from everybody else, learn from anything I experience. A person whose last animal is consume like this, they have a low threshold for new information. That's just not what they're doing, but much. So yeah, you could simulate totally different animal stacks and get very different kind of people. So yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate infodom versus energy dom and let you see how these practically can kind of play out. From there, I want to show my type as an example. I will get around to explaining the sexual modalities. This is a double masculine way of being. It speaks to the functions, which of my functions are masculine, which of them are feminine. I'll do that in another video, but this is my ESTP standard type with consume, play, blast, then sleep. So just to kind of explain this for me, I'm leading with an extroverted observer process, then introverted, introverted identity process, DI, and then extroverted feeling, and then introverted intuition. So me being consume first, I'm using my first and my second process to take in new information for the self, which fits me pretty naturally. It's my first two functions is what is used to do consume, and it actually is my first animal. And then play is my next one. So I'm processing, taking in information for the self, and then being out here just interacting with people, not necessarily blasting a particular topic or needing to share something with them. I just like to process. I like them to tell me something. It's kind of processing with people in a sense. Expending energy, doing stuff, being out there, interacting with the world around me, and the two extroverted processes is my secondary animal. So these are both savior animals for me. Now, what is starting to be a demon for me is blasting. I'm currently blasting known information right now. This YouTube channel is definitely helping me to do that more and more because it puts a demand on my blast to say, no, don't go out and learn something new. I have a high tendency to feel like, okay, if I'm gonna make a video, I see all my holes of what I still don't know. I need to go learn more. I have a high inclination to do that almost before every single video. I need to go learn something more so I can fill in my gaps so I can teach. But blasting is taking what I already know and giving and creating a product out of it and sharing that as it is. High blasters will do that out of knowing two things and go blast and tell everybody this is what you need to do and not even have a lot of information with it. And they're fine with that. They just take off with it, create the product. They're just movers, they're getting it done. Person like me, high consumer, just likes to take in information for the self, never tell anybody. 10 years of consuming and still haven't talked about anything I've consumed, something I'm highly inclined to do. So yeah, it's still a struggle to tell myself just going ahead and blast. You know enough. You've learned enough. Blast what you know. So yeah, blast is a demon, but it's accessible. It's not way over here like this. So for me, when you look at energy versus information, I've got consume and blast in my top three. So I am a information dominant kind of person. I blatantly am. I am wanting my information to be really good. I'm focused on, did I communicate the information to the people? I'm not focused on whether I'm expending too much energy or am I preserving my energy. I am highly inclined to not even notice that I'm not sleep processing and just overexpend my energy. I am high play with sleep missing. So I'm not an energy dom person. I'm an info dom person. And just to look at blast, for me to blast, I'm blasting out of my inferior function down here, my organized function from the bottom, taking this and blasting it to the tribe through extroverted feeling. And then sleep processing would be the internal two right here, TI and NI as my internal world. I am having to intentionally do that because I will wind up doing these other animals and not paying attention to the internal processing, sitting back, letting myself really just be still and make sense of things. I could easily just go and consume new information, which can look like sleep processing, but it's not. Consume is brand new stuff from the outside world coming in as I'm making sense of it for the self. I do that a lot and it looks like introversion, but it's not. What else to say? So at the bottom, this is, I guess, the last good point to really take from this as you're looking at how this plays out in all of the different types. Based on the functions that your type has, will determine the type of consume you have, the type of play, the type of blast, or the type of sleep. It's based on, again, every animal is taking two functions, they work together, and it's a particular color based on the variations of those two functions. So me as an ESTP, my functions are SE, TI, FE, and NI. That's my functions. So whenever you're looking at consume, it's like I have SE and TI type of consume. So I have ST consume. That is consuming things that are factual and that are logical, right? Give me the facts and it needs to make sense. That's like my consume filter. As I was saying, we have a certain type of consume that we want, and I generally like to consume factual things that make sense for the self, and that's like my gate on it. It's like, oh, this isn't good consume to me because this is the type of consume I want. Somebody with a different type of consume could be like SE and FI mix, and they're wanting to consume more goofy stuff and just stuff that's kind of fun just because they like it. Just purely, it's that FI filter on the inside. You're bringing in information that will satisfy the introverted decider, that identity, right? So you could have NE combined with TI. You could have NE combined with FI. You could have SE combined with FI, and mine is SE with TI. So my consume is ST consume. That's the type of information I want to consume. Things that are factual, things that are just real, that S, real life sort of stuff that makes sense. I want to hear some facts, something that's logical. Tell me something I didn't know about something. I'm like, wow, that's interesting, right? Like, that's the type of consume I have. So as for play, I have SF consume. It's the extroverted sensing and the introverted feeling, as you can see, these two, right? So it has to do with what's going on, current events of just what's happening around me. It's like that in that moment stuff, and the extroverted feeling of what's popular, what are the trends, what's the market, what's happening, like what are people, I guess it's kind of trendy in that sense. What's popular, what's trendy between, it's that type of play, being out there in the emotions with people and in the moment, in the emotions, just out there kind of enjoying, sharing emotions, that extroverted feeling, sharing a vibe, enjoying music, enjoying a certain feeling with other people in the moment. Extroverted sensing is very just present moment, kind of liking that, like it's new sensory experiences with a positive emotional vibe, if that makes sense. So my play is SF play. If someone has different functions, it'll be a different kind of play. It's a combination of two particular functions. My blast is NF blast. It's taking an intuitive process down here, pattern recognition about something, and extroverted feeling related things. So that is like things about the humanities, about values, about how to treat people or whatever. It's like, it's a very intuitive, metaphorical kind of blast. Even though I'm this ESTP, when I am blasting and I've got a message for you, I'm going to teach and say something that sounds very NF-like. I might sound like an INFJ because all of our blast in that category who have the same functions, our blast comes off in an NF sort of way. So in order for me to blast, I am, got a sneeze coming. My blast is not coming from my top two functions. It's coming from my two demon functions. And yeah, so this is something I'm growing and doing more often, to embrace my blast and to do it, to use my demon functions to teach more often. And then my sleep is NT sleep. My internal world is very NT. It is logical and intuitive. So the things I'm thinking about are very intellectual sort of things. My inner world is very intellectual. The things I'm processing, the things I'm making sense of, it's how systems are working. Another reason why I do really love typology and understanding the inner workings of this stuff, for the sake of the humanities, for the sake of people, for the sake of understanding people, yeah, for the betterment of for NF related reasons. I'm blasting about stuff like this, understanding this kind of stuff. I enjoy this type of play, and this is the type of things I like to consume. So I am just one person out of many. In the objective personality system, there are 512 types once you start mixing all these combinations. So this is what's true for me. And yeah, so that was a lot of information. And animals really tell a behavioral story, I think. It's not just how we're wired alone, but it's what we're doing and how we spend our time. Seriously, says a whole nother aspect of us, really. So this colors where we land on a introvert to extrovert spectrum, but also I think the biggest thing I always want to emphasize in each new coin that we're learning, it shows our personal growth path, because what are saviors to us is our addictions. I could spend my whole life and never have a YouTube channel, never share anything I've ever learned with anyone, and be totally fine and just go off and learn something else and never create something with the things I enjoy doing. I just be off playing guitar. I can just be, never write a song, never share it, or you know what I'm saying? Like I can enjoy consuming, and I can enjoy just kind of processing, talking with people, getting interesting thoughts and stuff. I love that. My savior animals very much is consume and play. I will always enjoy consuming and playing. But growth for me is to blast and to sleep a lot more often. To sleep process on what I already know and get to, as a lead gatherer, it's positive for me to organize. And the more I can organize internally and really organize my thoughts, get together my concepts that arise from all of the factual stuff I'm always gathering, if I can really get my intuition together, the patterns internally, I'll have something I can blast. Because blast is coming out of that introverted intuition. So it serves me to make sense of my own what I am seeing, what I know, coming to a point to say, hey, I know these things, not just focusing on what I don't know and getting new stuff. It helps for me to sit with the information, envision it, write it out, organize it, and then teach it and present it. And that's an example of using your demon animals more often and incorporating them into your life to grow, to become the fullest you, to do all the things that flow out of you and not just the ones you're addicted to doing. Because genuinely, the more I've spent my time on purely just consuming and play, I start to have like this dissatisfaction with my life, in a sense of like, I know I'm made to be doing more than this, but I'm only doing what I want to do, if that makes sense. It's fulfilling whenever you tap into your whole self and pick up in the areas that you're not really putting time into. So that's the encouragement in all of this information, is to understand yourself, understand what you're doing, see the truth of that, and then see how to grow. Understand and learn from other people who are operating in that opposite gifting, and see how you can incorporate that into your life, or see if that's something that can help you attain bigger life goals that you have, as you get to understand the gaps, I guess, and to develop. And yeah, so that's about it for the animals. If you got value out of this, go and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. I enjoy knowing that the content has made a difference in your life, has benefited you in some way. So yes, I appreciate that. Give it a thumbs up, and then also subscribe for future content. I will continue putting out more videos on the OPS basics, making sense of the sexual modalities and other things. But yeah, I just thank you for being on the channel. I really just appreciate you stopping by and being a part of this community. And yeah, I'm here to help you grow and learn in your own type journey, in your own personal growth journey. And yeah, I'm excited to have you here. All right, guys, that is it for this video, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.